What's up everybody, welcome back to another Marvel Snap video. It's been a while since the last one, but we're back, and today we're doing something a little bit different than the usual deck guides and whatnot. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 cards that I want to see changed in Marvel Snap. Now most of these I want to see nerfed or reworked in some way. However, there is one card that I want to see buffed, so stay tuned till the end for that one. Let's just go ahead and dive into it. I'm not going to waste any more time. Leader. This card is absolutely broken. If you watched any of my previous videos, you know that I absolutely hate this card. It is such an oppressive card. I've played a ton of card games, Runeterra, I've played Gwent, I've played cards, I've played Mythgard, you name it. Leader is one of the most oppressive cards I've played in any card game. What this card should really read is, on reveal, if you're winning the game by turn 5, just win the game. It's such a stupid card. I hate it. I hate it so much. Sorry, I don't want to turn this into a rant so much. I kind of want to try and keep my thoughts cohesive. But anyways, Leader, if you don't know, if you're not into Series 3 and you're not playing against Leader, consider yourself lucky. But he is a 6 energy card for 4 power. On reveal, copy all cards your opponent played this turn, but on your side. So essentially, whatever cards you play on turn 6, your opponent is going to copy those cards on their side of the board, plus 4 power. It just absolutely insane, man, because if you're winning by turn 5 and you play Leader, I mean, you're pretty much guaranteed to win the game. Now, people say there are ways to counter Leader. I don't necessarily agree with that. The best way to quote unquote counter him would be to try and fill up your opponent's side of the board so they won't have any board space to try and spawn whatever you played on turn 6. But I found that it's just kind of hard to do and kind of inconsistent. And the fact that people are playing Leech now as well, people are playing Leech and Leader in the same deck a lot in this current meta, and that makes that strategy very difficult. I don't really see like any clear-cut way at all to counter Leader. He's just such a problem right now. I see so many like posts and videos from people that would be like, oh, I got to infinite with this deck. 9 times out of 10, that deck includes Leader in it. This card is just absolutely insane. So how would I nerf this card or rework it? Well, the easiest solution would be to give him 0 power, right? Because his ability copies all the cards that you played, plus he gives you 4 power, which is just it's just nuts. So the easiest solution would be to give him 0 power, maybe even negative power, to be honest. However, the problem with that is Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative swaps the power and cost of all cards in your deck. So essentially, Leader would become 0 cost 6 power if they were to nerf his power to 0. So that would just be absolutely insane in Mr. Negative decks. So that is a bit of a problem. Since Mr. Negative does exist, I think we should maybe have some sort of condition on Leader, like maybe similar to the Infinite, where the Infinite is if you played a card last turn, you can't play this. Maybe something like that for Leader. Maybe like if last turn you have more total points than your opponent, you can't play this card. I don't know, something like that. I'm not a game designer by any means, but I have played a ton of card games, and I know balancing cards is very difficult to do. I think up until now, you know, Second Dinner has done a very good job at balancing the game, keeping the game fresh and the meta alive and changing. And Leader is really just the card I have the biggest problem with. There's some other cards I'm going to talk about after Leader, but I really just wanted to talk about Leader first because I really think he's the biggest problem in the game right now, and I really want to see him reworked in one way or another. So let's go ahead and move on to the next card. Alright, so the next card I would like to see changed is Wave, and I guess you can consider this a nerf. I consider it more of a rework or clarification on Wave's ability. For those who don't know, Wave is 3 energy, 3 power. On reveal, next turn, cards in both players' hands cost 4. So a really good tool at ramping up into more expensive cards that cost 5 or 6. However, Wave is most commonly used with Death as well as She-Hulk. The problem with this is Wave's ability reads, next turn, cards in both players' hands cost 4, right? So it'll set the cost of the cards to 4, and then cards like Death and She-Hulk will then also activate their cost reduction abilities. So sometimes you could play Death or She-Hulk for 1 or 2 energy, or sometimes even 0 energy, which is just absolutely insane, man. I personally think that this ability should read, next turn, cards in both players' hands cost 4, not including any cost reduction abilities. So if you want to play Death next turn, fine, go ahead, I'm fine with that. But have Death cost 4, not 4 and then reduced its cost based on however many units were destroyed. I think that's just too much, in my opinion. The cards should just be 4 and that's it. I think this would be much more fair, and I think it's not a huge hit to this card to where it becomes unplayable. I think it just becomes more fair, and that's really all I gotta say about Wave for now. Let's move on to the next one. Oh boy, so if I gotta mention Wave, I gotta mention Death. Death is 9 energy for 12 power, costs 1 less for each card destroyed this game. I feel like this ability is just, its requirement to cheapen its cost is just so easy to achieve. And then, like I said, in conjunction with Wave, it's so common to just get a 0 cost Death. So you play Death on turn 6, so it can't get like Shang-Chi as long as you're revealing second, and then you play a 6 cost card on top of that. I mean, it's just insane. Plus, with the new featured location, Lamentis 1, that would destroy all your cards in your deck, that would count towards Death. I think that's just dumb, personally. Now, what I would like to see changed with Death is its requirement. So right now, it just reads, costs 1 less for each card destroyed this game. The keyword is destroyed. It doesn't really clarify on what destroyed means. However, what we do know is that it does count units destroyed from cards like Carnage, Deathlok, Killmonger. It also counts the card you remove from your opponent's deck with Yondu for some reason. I don't know why, but it does, and it costs the cards being destroyed from your deck from the new location Lamentis 1. So first off, I want to see this ability just count destroyed cards from units like Carnage, Deathlok, Killmonger. I don't think Yondu should count towards this. I don't think Lamentis 1 should count towards this. If you play Lamentis 1 and you're running Death, I mean, it's just like a free win, dude. Like, straight up. Unless maybe your opponent is playing Leech, which more people are playing Leech now. But seriously, I think it's just way too easy to reduce Death all the way down to 0. Really just overpowered card, in my opinion, personally. Maybe even see this card be cost 1 less for each card destroyed, one of your cards destroyed, not counting your opponent's cards. Maybe just kind of like self-destruction. Maybe that's a little bit too harsh of a nerf. So I think for now, just cards destroyed by card abilities. Like I said, Carnage, Deathlok, Killmonger, Shang-Chi's another one. Maybe there's more that I'm not thinking of, but those are the ones that come off the top of my head. So I don't think Yondu should count, and I don't think Lamentis should count. And that's all I gotta say for Death for now, at least. Let's go ahead and move on to the next card. All right, so next up we have Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative is 4 energy for -1 power. On reveal, swap the power and cost of all cards in your deck. Now, this one is a weird one because at the current moment of recording this video, I feel like Mr. Negative himself is fine. Like, he is a strong card, but the thing is, you need to have the cards to support him. Like he's a very cool and fun card, I think, in my opinion. He's a very unique card, and you have to build your deck in a very unique way to get the most out of his ability. However, the problem with Mr. Negative is that he makes any future balance patches for Marvel Snap just very problematic, because like I said earlier, I would like to see Leader get nerfed to 0 power, but guess what? That means he gets buffed in a Mr. Negative deck, because Leader would then cost 0 and play for 6 power, which, good God, we do. I do not want that. Oh my God, I would lose my brain, dude. I would lose my mind. And then we saw Angela and Sarah get nerfed in the most recent patch, right? But it was secretly like a little buff to them in a Mr. Negative deck, because their cost goes down and their power goes up in a Mr. Negative deck. So I don't know. I like Mr. Negative. I think he's fun, but he's just very problematic for the future of Marvel Snap and any upcoming balance patches, because anytime a card gets nerfed or buffed, we gotta say, oh well, what about Mr. Negative deck? And you could argue that Mr. Negative, you know, isn't a very consistent deck, because I think it could be inconsistent. What if you play a Mr. Negative deck and you just don't draw him, right? Or you don't draw any of the key pieces that really benefit from his ability? Sure, I mean, I guess you could make that argument, but really, I think he needs to be changed in some way or another for the future of this game to make it, you know, healthy. And I don't know how you would do that. I think that's kind of challenging. His ability is so unique. I think it's a really cool ability, but it's just, I think it's troublesome for the future of the game. So I would like to see Mr. Negative changed some way. I'm not sure how. I'm sure Second Dinner is going to have a tough time with that one. But yeah, I'd like to see him changed in the future. And let's go ahead and talk about the last card I would like to see changed in Marvel Snap. All right, the last card I want to see changed in Marvel Snap is Sandman. Now, Sandman is 4 energy, 1 power. Ongoing, players can only play 1 card a turn. And this one's a bit of a curveball. I actually want to see Sandman buffed. I think on paper, he's a really good tech card against some top decks in the meta right now, which are like Sarah decks or Silver Surfer decks, which really thrive on that turn 6 big burst play, just slamming down a bunch of cards on turn 6. Sandman can really shut that down. However, I've tried experimenting with Sandman, and I just find him really underwhelming for 4 energy. The thing is, I think he's such a slow tempo play on turn 4. Like, 4 energy, 1 power. Like, it's such a slow play on turn 4. Like, sometimes you can shut down Sarah decks or Silver Surfer decks with Sandman, but still, they just have so many tools in their deck that they'll usually be fine with playing 1 card a turn. And with Sandman, I think he's another interesting card like Mr. Negative. You really want to build your deck around him, at least the 5 and 6 cost cards. Like, I think Sandman really fits well in a like ongoing Spectrum list, because you play Sandman on 4, and then turn 5 you play like Iron Man or Claw, and then turn 6 you play like Spectrum or Destroyer. But from what I've tested with him, he's just really overwhelming. Like, turn 4, like, you really need to start putting points on the board, and 1 point is just not enough. Like, by that point, like, your opponent, if they're ahead of you, like, they're probably just gonna win, you know? And Sandman, I'd really like to see him buffed. I don't know how. Maybe just like a slight power increase to like 2 or 3 power. Because the thing is, like think of Wong, right? Wong is 4 energy for 2 power. He has an ongoing ability, excuse me, that your on reveal abilities happen twice at that location that he's at. A very strong ability with really no downside, unless you get countered by like a Cosmo or an Enchantress or something like that. But Wong is 4 energy and he's 2 power. He's 1 more power than Sandman, and he really only has upside for you. Sandman is 4 energy, 1 power, and it's both players can only play 1 card a turn. Now, if it was only your enemy can play 1 card a turn, I think that would be too oppressive. I think that would be too powerful. But maybe we just give Sandman like 1 or 2 extra power, you know? 'Cause, yeah, I really think a key control card like Sandman is kind of required in this meta to kind of balance things out a bit. Like how Killmonger really keeps Zoo decks in check. I think Sandman could really keep Sarah and Silver Surfer decks in check, and just any decks really that rely on a big turn 5, turn 6 push. But he doesn't really do that effectively right now. Like you don't really see him in any top meta decks. Like you can play him, but he's not great right now, and I like to see him buff personally. And that's it. That is the last card I would like to see changed in Marvel Snap. Shout out to Marvel Snap Zone for the awesome website that gives us all the nice graphics and information and all that. Go check them out if you haven't already. And thanks for watching the video. Let me know what you thought about this video. It's something different from my usual sort of content, but I like to try and mix it up, you know? I like to keep things fresh, I like to keep you on your toes, you know what I mean? So next video, who knows what we'll do? I don't know. I'll probably do another deck guy or something like that. I'm really close to unlocking Daredevil, so once I get to Daredevil, I'm going to be making a ton of decks with him, so look out for that. Daredevil is one of my favorite Marvel characters alongside Ant-Man, so let's see how that goes. Once again, thank you for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you, and I will see you all in the next one. Later.